Get started with our recitation.
Dumbo Junden de Jin Jebo Rajon Bo Yandabo
Zobe Sanye
Ribo Don Shotu Demba Dewa Shebo Jiden Kemba Jebu Kalu Jubo Lana Meba Ladam Meno Jedamo Sange Chumden de Bejewa Shagya Tuba La Jazan Ochu Du Jab Jebo Dumbo Junden de Jin Jebo Rajon Bo Yandabo Rebo Don Shabu Demba Dewa Sheba Jiden Kemba Jebu Kalu Juba Lana Meba Lada Mena Jeba Sanje Chonde Bejewa Shagya Tubo La Chaze Bo Chon She Ojo Nene Shin Sheba Rajon Bayanda Barazobe Rebo Don Shabu Demba Dewa Sheba Jiden Kemba Jebu Kalu Juba Lana Meba Lada Mena Jeba Sanje Chonde Bejewa Shagya Tubo La Chaze Chodu Jaze Gani Zo Jedan Sajen De La Gombo De Morne Name Jeden De Na Choje Zon De Ze Jeba Gyola Chaze Nanda Goma Chodu Zuzon Yishe Gyazo Sege Lombor Chaba Jedin Suna Lame Wo Gombo Chunyi Gyola Chaze Sejo Damba Shime Davisha Sedo Rawa Gyola Chaze Tundra Gyona Siva Suna Ji Nyame Kinji Gyola Chaze Gombo Tuji Chidembo Tamche Kimbe Tumbo Tona Yenden Yazo Yende Jin Shela Chazo Dabe Bejan Rabori Yewe Kendo Lebro Chelo Dendam Cheju Ba Shiju Chela Chazo Tone Tone Layande Laba Dala Radu Cheju Damba Yende Gindu Layan Deva Jian Vijayjin Gewa Kusin Sobarigi Rangi Sene Yonsun Tene Sange Devayi Karma Rabri Marmedan Gyoma Seva Chuvurdan Milan Lodan Jindavu Duji Tunan Didadan Sanandi Tamche Sivayi Govan
Page 3. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, To you, the one God, the thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path of sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits, my sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Baba Jerez Wanju Shirage Varudo Chimba Sama Chuba Nila Nambara Kumbu Ngabo Deda Laya Rajinge Dombara Nambara Tao Tene Sange Gitu Sedan Demba Sharibu Janju Semba Semba Jembo Baba Jerez Wanju La Tige Jemeso Rije Bu Kala Shirage Varudo Chimba Sama Chuba Chuba Doba De Chita Labarasha Pege Jeme Badan Janju Semba Semba Jembo Baba Jereze Wanchuki Sedan Demba Tereda De Bula Pege Jeme So Shari Bu Rige Bu Mo Kala Shirage Barudu Jemba Sama Cheba Chuba Doba De Didara Nambara Tawara Shade Kumbo Ngabo Deda Layan Rajige Dombar Nambar Yanda Bar Jesu Tau Tutombao, Tomba ni Zuzo, Zule, Tomba ni Shemayin, Tomba ni Legian, Zushemayin, no Deshin, do Sorwadan, Dushidan, Dushidan, Nambar Shepa, Nam Tombao. Sharibo, Deda Chudanji, Tomba ni de, Sini Meba, Mageba, Magaba, Jima Meba, Jima Dan, Tewa, Tewa Meba, Tongwa Meba, Sharibo, Deda Wena, Tomba Nila, Zume, Sorwame, Dujime, Nambar Shebame, Mime, Nawame, Name, Chime, Lume, Yime, Zume, Tame, Jime, Rome, Regjame, Chume, Do, Mige, Kame, Bane, Yige, Kame, Yige, Nambar Shebe, Kange, Badu, Yame, So, Maribame, Mariba, Seba, Gashi, Gashi, Sebe, Badu, Yame, Do, Deshindu, Tongwa, Wadon, Kunju, Wadon, Gobadan, Lame, Yeshime, Toba, Me, Matoba, Yame, Do, Shari, Tedavana, Janju, Semba, Nam, Toba, Mebe, Chiru, Sheragi, Varudu, Chimba, Lajine, De, Simla, Jiba, Mejin, Jaba, Mede, Chiji, Lole, Shindu, Dene, Nyangele, Deve, Taro, Shindu, Duzundu, Namba, Shube, Sange, Gamde, Jachara, Varudu, Chimbala, Dene, Lana, Meba, Yanda, Varzobe, Chanju, Dungu, Vardo, Sange, So, Tedavana, Sheragi, Varudu, Chimbenga, Riba, Chimbenga, Lana, Mebenga, Minyamba, Danyabenga, Donga, Danjera, Shivar, Shibenga, Mizubena, Dembar, Shivar, Shate, Sheragi, Varudu, Chimbenga, Meba, Tayada, Gade, Gade, Para, Gade, Para, Sangade, Buddhist, Cheribo, Zanju, Samba, Samba, Chimbo, Deda, Sheragi, Parudu, Samola, Lavar, Javo, Tene, Chomende, Tinges, and Dele, Shende, Chanju, Sembo, Semba, Chimbo, Pava, Jereze, Wanjula, Lexo, Shejawa, Chene, Lexo, Lexo, Riki, Bu, Dede, Shendo, Dede, Shende, Chedra, Juju, Demba, Shende, Sheragi, Parudu, Chimba, Samola, Chepa, Parchate, Deshe, Sheba, Namya, Jesu, Yirango, Jole Dege Dege Jeka Selne Sedan Demba Sharada Devuda Anju Semba Semba Jembu Baba Sheleze Wanchu Hamje Dan Dembe Koro De Dada Adam Midan Bama Yenza Kedra Jebe Jide Yiran De Chomden Dege Sumba La Mumba
Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahatattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhya, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahatattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahatattva, and replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to, there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond. And because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas dwell in the three times by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Tayada Gandhi Gandhi Bharagandhi Bharatam Gandhi Bhundiso. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahatattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahatattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said. Then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering, the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
So Lamrim
It is Sunday now, and we resume the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. One approach to many for an introduction to the Buddha Dharma. There are many forms that an introduction into the Buddha Dharma might take, and we take as ours this approach of combining it with our exposure to the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Now, mainly and primarily in an introduction into the Buddha Dharma, the concentration will be upon the four truths of the noble ones, all of the aspects of the path to enlightenment concentrated into these four. And this is often the approach to an introduction to the Buddha Dharma.
말하는 사람들 람림 같지 않은 시기가 있는데 난 람지 창주 람지 림바스 책숨이요 창주제 람지 림바스 책숨 중에 신나만 모두 람냠내 지다를 버시기요 그래서 창주제 람지 림바스
For our part now, as we approach the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, this is an expression, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Here are 4 words of this title orienting us here.
예, 세상다 이 인류 전부다 아무들 청축들이 거도를 둬서 거래에서 모두치 버스 둬서 거래에서 상주스 아니 람스리 가네도레스 다 되네 람지 리버스리 아니 고투디 가당 컨디스토르 가디도레스 다 깨지디 어디 당하는 지디 한 거기 빼지나시도 잠이 람지 리버스 라버가 또 이거 깨지도 시험이나 어다 어도레 아니 가디도레 아니 컨디스토레스 다 깨지도 어디치 냠내지기요 그래서
Enlightenment is the destination where to one travels, where leads the path to enlightenment, to awakening. And when we speak of the path, we mean the means by which one goes, how it is one goes along in this direction. And of stages to that path, it means in the going along down that path, along that path, when is one going and how is one going? Generally speaking, we turn our attention to a great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. This is what we speak of. But in essence, it is to say, where are you off to? When are you departing? And how will you go?
다 당부들 계속 당부들 저거 당부들 가와도레스 저거들 가와도레스 아니 도사 가레스 도사의 명들은 창주스 바게 창주스 바게 두부투니다 아무도 도사 데레다스 파게레다스 두부투 파게레스 두부티나시 도사 가와레스도 다 람게 탈투바 산지지 고반 창주스기들레스 어디 당부들 람 창주스에 되게 도사들 땡기어레서
That first question, where are you bound to? Where are you off to? There you point, pointing to awakening, pointing to enlightenment. That's it there. That is where I'm off to. This path leads unto that, the ultimate end that is awakening.
다 디네 가네 조그레스 다 가네 조그레스도 다 람디 땡거 람 가네 조고위마 랑가 디네 주 랑가 디네 두기와 말 디네 조그레스 람지도 제다 다 도사 랑가 디네레다 세 아니 람세데 다 나도 단다 마 디네 창주사가 줘야게 람지다 남샤되게 시기요래 소모자.
And the next question, where from does one go there? From here, along the path one goes. One enters here, not there, but here. And therefore, leaving from here, one takes their course to their awakening, enlightenment.
다 디네 디니바 스마들레 스마다 칸데스 조그레스 세다 가두 조그레 칸데스 조그레스 세다 저거들리 다 딜리도 아니 다 남지 림바스 다 도당 데데데 여 디네 도교여 말 랑가 디네 도나 다 랑가 노르 디네 도나 랑가 드버세 다 어떻게 시가 디나시 다 람마 노르 로고야 지도라 다 남지 림바스 어디 지도 다달리 도와서
And the third question, how does one go along this path? When does one go along it and how does one progress along it? And one does in stages. The way is this way. Along the way, one proceeds in this way and not in that way. To proceed in that way would be incorrect. Proceeding in this way is correct. and without error. These are the stages along the path in the progression.
Oh yeah, that is the example that was you cover is the Changju for the Sanji Goma. That's doing Tamji the Tewa, there were Tamji the Debi Goma, Changju Singi Yore, it on the Drosa de Rest, Drosa Udimoson. That deal of project to any country store is about that Langa Changju Lamji River, Lo Jayan, that on the Lamri shape Lamji River. The get Langa did the digital Drosa Langa Redas. Say that Lamdi. 다 간데 스토어에 다 거기 간에 도어에 스르스amba 아니 갈래어서 다 기부숨지 남제 림박 남샤 디네 도어에 다서 아니 도사게 다 도단 남디기 때문에 연구여래 소리지.
The destination is awakening, Buddhahood, enlightenment, that state in which one is parted from all pain and experiences every contentment. That's the destination. This is our objective. It is identified in that way. One trains in such a way that they arrive there. This is the path. When we speak of the path, we say, this is it. This is the means. It isn't that, it's just this. This is the way, the path. And how is it that one proceeds along this path? One does so by following a dharma of three scopes. That's the way.
Oh, yeah, that interesting. Dosa, that forget. To you, Rosa Langa Sumje. That is some Santa Duzamata, to have Tuzu Kadu Dogres, Duzamba, that Tuzu Kadu Dogres, Duzamba, and that Tudi, but Jelushu Amar Tuzu Tata Dogreda Sigua, Tina Shin, Tudi, to Tandan Dogre Matoji Jeda, that Tuzu Jamara do Dogre, Tuzu Sanguchana Dogi, one Atanda Tuzu with the Jelu Dogi say, take as a Yomar, the Jena Jelushu. 제가 주주디 도에 주주디 아니 달로 단다 어디는 로투가 거래서.
That way then the destination and the path to the destination and the way the path is followed unto the destination. And then regarding the time, which time applies for this? This very moment without delay. You are to go on time. In a timely manner, pass along this path, beginning now, not dilly-dallying to say when I get time, or at a better time, or another time, none of that, but instead this year, right now.
Oh yeah, that is it. That he do some other Lamrina, that Lamshi Lamri go to Tambo Tenjo, Tenjinica, Slamri go Cane Zugrelana, Tenjo, Tenjinica, and go to Grace. That Carichene is enough. That should go to Gray, should go Grace and to watch your big land Yatonala. That dog when you did around the blue top the and then around the blue top the I need to of share of Namju that Demba. Twin Dian Sama, Yagin Meva, Yagig Sang the blue top the Mazo. 투그레 조구레스 어디 로야 또 모시야 된다 아니 남이 고들 텐조 텐제니가 텐조디 니가와레 텐체와레 이모조신 수고요레 소지.
One begins along the path from the starting point of the path, which is the recognition of the precious human embodiment and its significance. Why does the indication of where the path is begin with this? Because it is the answer to who is able to travel along this path, who must travel along this path. The answer being that individual endowed with the precious human embodiment, precious for its leisures and its endowments and of great significance. One is then with the human endowment, endowed with a native intelligence for discriminating between dharmas. One has potential in all the endowments of their embodiment, and one is able to overcome obstacles by virtue of it. One indicates the significance of the human endowment with this, that the path begins in the recognition of the precious human embodiment, with its leisures and its endowments, which is so difficult to achieve and of such great significance.
Tine donye ten keba su do tu gu yoba do su do gu yoba de ha ko du ani do du zamba da lam la kange ma yo wa lam manoro lam la pa de bo chen jor tu ya chi do la lam de chi ni gu gu wa lam de chi ni o che da ma na zo lam di lam ri ni che ba lam de ge de rang gi la mo shen ba rang gi la ke ba rang gi la to ba che ba la da dang bo xin yi de zu gu gu yoba o che da xin yi de zu gu gu yoba de ani o pe te na shi re so no.
With the individual who is able to travel along this path identified, that individual who must travel this path identified for us, then it follows to find how is it then that such an individual will travel along this path and arrive where they must without any difficulty. What ensures ease of passage along this path? None other but the guide along the path, and that guide is the Kalyana Mitra, who introduces the path to the mind of the disciple, who produces realization in the mind of the disciple, who is underlying every achievement in this individual traveling along the path. Thus, the reliance upon the Kalyana Mitra, the spiritual guide, is of first importance. Thus, the guru discipline of reliance upon the spiritual mentor, such that one make no mistake traveling along the path. One relies upon a guide who has experience in the path.
치와 메타바디 아니 가지고 드링님 맞잖아 치와 메타바기 아니 여바지 아니 로마토가 자기가 와서 배티 치와 메타바 수고 열에 손었어.
With the person to travel along the path clarified for us, and the Kalyana Mitra upon whom one will rely for guidance along the path clarified for us, then we return for a moment to what I have said of the proper time to begin the progress along the path, and that is not to delay until tomorrow. For should one do that, then one won't catch the departing momentum, and one will arrive only late. And so one must certainly depart beginning now, and to urge this upon one, then the meditation upon the recognition of the imminence of death and impermanence all along. That is, if one doesn't begin presently, then imminent death and impermanence will step in and prevent progress. So it is the person who is with human embodiment that is able to go along the path. And it is the individual who has been deprived of that who is unable to. So then one must proceed when one is a human being with the human embodiment. And one must clear away any obstacle to one's progress while they have the human embodiment. For if imminent death intervenes before one has begun their progress, then success in the Dharma is prevented.
이마디 다와디 톨라도 그래 로톨라도 아니 미지 톨라도 그래 세상 세상인데 미지 약고 된다 되면 써야지 제마 세 개제 되는 요 말았어 링세 개제 되는 것도 보고 요래서
The human life must be made meaningful and significant and not allowed to go to waste. And how is this ensured? It is ensured by making each moment that constitutes the day which constitutes and makes up the month, and the month which makes up the year, and the years that make up an entire lifetime, making every moment along the way meaningful. If the moment is squandered, then the day will be squandered. If the day is squandered, the week will be squandered, the week squandered, the month, then the year, and then the entire life. So then there is no place to delay. There's no sense in mentioning tomorrow as the better moment to begin. It must begin now.
다 드리는 것도 그거 얘는 아니 간데스 것도 그래 다 뒤로 들어도 다 진짜 드리는 것쪽에 네 그거에 다 드리는 손들한게 룽아 이숨기 자와 가리체바 이나양 레 상보 세다 레의 준대기 남샤디 셰고요레 제사다 레 상보디 사 레녀버디 사유나 용르당 양조권의 마사바체 다 디기 내가 되는 것쪽으로 해서
Then if one must begin now, how is it that one ought to begin? Beginning from today, one must comport oneself in body, speech, and mind in every way, in virtuous ways, alone and never in non-virtuous ways. And wherever one can recognize in oneself a non-virtuous activity, then reduce those, and in every virtuous activity, increase them and improve them.
예, 제가 다 인디 말한 쪽에 레 산예디 가리사르스 룽아 예숨 고숨 되게 사기를 디사 중에디 이 나로 룽아 예숨게 나로도 되게 말한 쪽 셈다 냠돌라 아니 레 미기와 산예기다 뉴모 스기디어 뉴모 되게 왕게 맞아 레 미기와 사기를 야, 딸 미기와 산예디 뉴모 되게 왕게사 딸레 개와사 보고 이나 아니 셈 디냠돌레 니모디다 파트와 메바 셈 디냠돌라 아니 셈 상보 창주 셈 세야다 닝지 첨부 창바스게 디주다 셈 디주고 온도 땅아이나 셈 디고도 냠도 땅아이나 레게와 사투그레 룽아 이순가지 레게와 사투그레 셈 디니모고 온도 로이나 룽아 이순 내가 가르쳐 왔는데 레 미기와 사그레스 제가 딸 레게와다 미기와 이나다 막 고주서 그냥 쪽으로 해서
Virtues are accumulated through activities of body, speech, and mind. Physical action, verbal action, mental activities. And inside of every one of these is the mind itself underlying those activities. And when that mind is involved in afflicted mentalities, klesha, then those klesha influencing the mind cause one to act physically, verbally, and mentally in non-virtuous ways. Then should one intend to act in virtuous ways, how is it that one would do this? One does so by deposing those klesha, the afflicted minds, from one's mind, parting oneself from the influence of mental afflictions, by developing the virtuous minds that are such minds as Mahakaruna, great compassion, and Maitri, love, and Bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. Where these are developed in the mind, then one is influenced to physically, verbally, mentally engage virtuously. But wherever there are afflicted minds, the klesha, then one's actions will be non-virtuous, the actions of body, speech, and mind. Then it is here, then, in a presentation of virtue and non-virtue, where one begins.
야, 세상 다 라면이 그냥 고쪽을 해서도 맞죠. 냠내체 고쪽 세야다 직체. 냠내 드리는 고쪽을 세야다 tuk사디 다 레다 균제기 남샤 되네. 수수기 냠내체 고쪽을 해서
One must begin one's progress along the path And where would one begin it? When would one begin it? Today. And where is the place to begin that progress? In just this, the framework of virtue and non-virtue.
예. 근데 이제 좀 봤다 남린나는 마치 송윤도 아니 바게 식 표주 당야의 직배 잘해야 이 아니 지금 바게 된지 뜻이 야야 강가 당부 동행이 돌아 동행이 뜻이 야고 지니 뭐 trouble 잡이 열었어 이 잡고야 가르스나 동행 뭐 맞잖아 아니 동행이 주 뭐신가 말 동행이 주 뭐 마셔나 아니 동행 용을 다 탑시에 요 말했어 제가 근데 메뉴 잠바 뭐 동해도 뭐 약간 아니 동해도 간에 종아래 종석이 규디 제제 다 드네 가르쳐 그래서도 동해도 매워 쏘야라 탑시에 가르여래서 다 동해기 규디 뭐시네 동해기 규디 바꿔봐이나 아니 동해 제부 용하게 나가 요 말와 제가 당고 동해 뭐죠 아니 동해 뭐쳐서나 아니 동해기 간에 좀 규디 뭐죠 아니 규디 매버서야 합시다. 냠내 제대로서.
이제 람림 갑라. 되는 Presenting the great treatise on the stages of the path of enlightenment, the approach is to use metaphor to elucidate meaning, and all for the purpose of identifying pain and recognizing pain and suffering. And why must pain and suffering be recognized? It must be for without an understanding, a comprehension of pain and suffering as it is, then there will be no identification, recognition that pain and suffering is caused, it has its cause. Without any recognition that pains and sufferings have a cause, there will be no recognition of a way for eliminating those pains and sufferings. So it is that this process of beginning with metaphor to elucidate meaning is for the purpose of identifying pain and suffering, so that an examination can find the causes of pain and suffering, so that as one wishes to abandon, to be parted from pain and suffering, one can part oneself from pain and suffering by identifying the causes of pain and suffering and eliminating the cause of pain and suffering. For with the elimination of any cause, then naturally the consequence, the result of what would have been the cause, what would be the cause, does not arise, for the cause has been eliminated. And so it is we wish to eliminate pain and suffering, and we do so by identifying the cause of pain and suffering.
되네. 세상 인류도 맞다. 단단하고 남리기 단단 레시에 뭘 레델라 레게와 시고기요레 레 미기와 시고기요레 이나양 뭐레 미기와 시레 미기와 야 오지 뭐트 아니 신에 레 미기와 있다. 간데스 빵고레스 아니 빵고지 아니 레 미기와 빵도도 빵바이나 아니 레게와 이거랑 제일 수가 연구요레 세상 인류 레 미겨워도 통보야 뭐 정말 trouble 아니 냠내기 백내 차와차대요. 그래서
In the context of the path, the presentation of karmic causality is of utmost importance. One begins in a presentation of non-virtue and virtues, and in this presentation begins first with the introduction to non-virtues, for the reason that the non-virtues identified allow one to proceed to abandon, eliminate these non-virtues. And in the very process of abandoning non-virtues and destructive attitudes, naturally virtuous, constructive attitudes arise. And so then the presentation of destructive attitudes, non-virtuous actions, coming first in this presentation of karmic causality, is of major significance.
됐어. 근데 이제 달레 미게와 승에데 뭐 쳐오르스 라브와 내가 달레 미게와 승에데랑 아주 수수수로 달레 미게와 간데스 요레스나 le migiwa dela le migiwa manzo moma sa sajo le migiwa chikche tanda sa shimbe le migiwa yo moba sa bo yube le migiwa otile yo reso.
In karmas, in non-virtuous karmas, there are three sorts: those that have been accumulated in the past, their accumulation has been complete; those that are presently accumulating; and those that will accumulate. These three.
다 만족을 말사 샤베 레기 말사 심베기 레 미기와 딜라 만족이 지디가지 요르디가지 요 말에서 체 요르스나 체 요 말에서 다 다다사 심베 레딜라 체 요 시그레 체 그때 데 용어도 장가도 있는 용어 지초그래서 에 마음발 사바 주베 레딜라 이나야 아니 레딜라 장가 체 매바 이제 제니 순거래서 뭐
Of those non-virtuous karmas accumulated already, their accumulation complete, is there any sense to the question just how much, just how many non-virtuous karmas have been accumulated? Is it quantifiable? There's no sense to this question, no quantification of it. Of non-virtuous karmas accumulating in the present, it might just be sensible to ask, is it quantifiable? It might just be finite, those that are accumulating in the present, but then look again into the future and non-virtuous karmas that will accumulate in the future. There again, those are unquantifiable.
Boy, that late Miguel Digi, that late Miguel Dilla, that hundred Liniba Kazan of the Dangoma Sheba Rosina, Le Miguel Dilla, Rangi Sabe, Le Miguel Chiche. Shen Sa Juba Chebe, Le Miguel Chiche. Shenji Sasha Le Miguel de la Rangi Jesu Yirawe, Le Miguel Chick, the Desum your response.
As I observed last week of non-virtuous karmas, they take three forms: those that one is personally responsible for and in which one acted directly; those that one caused others to engage in; and those engaged in by others in which one oneself celebrates.
Oh, it's Le Miguel Hazangi, Tanga Jamutu, Mango Yoba, the Merchant, down the Le Miguel the Karichigres, Le Miguel the Rang Yoba Yina, and take Jebuti, Dunga Yimbati, and Yebares, Le Bus Pass, Siving Sun Tamna to Katawija Yoba, Pang Sun Army Tamna to Jebu Armakia, Dinashi, Manzo Le Miguel Digi, Jebu, Dunga Yimbati, that's several signals.
Non-virtuous karmas accumulated are unquantifiable. We conclude this, and with an awareness of just this, we ask, what do non-virtuous karmas influence? Their influence is the very result of pain and suffering. This is definite. That is, whatever the cause, the result consistent with the cause necessarily results. So it is with a pepper seed, a seed of a pepper plant planted will yield a pepper that is spicy. And a sweet sugar seed of such a plant planted will yield a sugar plant that produces sweetness. This is the way it is.
Oh, that in the Hindu, Tanazo. The late Miguel Yobata, Miguel Tibu Dungi Yimba, that ratron, and that Karichore, Tapshi Kariores. That did it, that gets a deal, that's what the Legua. And that Karichore, Tapshi Karichores, that lady Meva Sogores, Lady Meva Masona, to Dungi Kigre, Dungi Dugi over the Dungi Kigre, with Yorova. That is that Dungi Meva Sogona, Tapshi Kariores. 아니 다 답시들라 아니 것도 없이 생기네 다 뜻이 저기 요래 손지 레디 매버 차야 답시들라 니 것도 없이 거를.
Then when it is the case that the result of non-virtuous karmas is necessarily pain and suffering, then what? What follows? Where do we arrive having understood this, this is the natural next step, isn't it? So we answered that one eliminates those non-virtuous karmas that otherwise result in pain and suffering. The cause is there. When the cause of pain and suffering is there, then the result, pain and suffering, arises. But when the cause is eliminated, then the result, that is pain and suffering, does not arise. And so what is the means? What means is available to eliminate these non-virtuous karmas? Available are the antidote powers. The application of antidote powers is required for the elimination of the karmas that result in pain and suffering. When one applies antidote powers, when one applies the 4 antidote powers, misdeeds for which one is responsible may be removed. Without the application of antidote powers, there's no removal of any such misdeed.
rangi dungedi rangi mideba yimbadi ngujur juze samla tang mare du su ina ya semje tunru ina ya dunge dogu mebadi koran dogu yo mar semje u yo chinjela da kanda ko dunge mideba da dewa deba yimbadi ang chunyi da indu samba ti dunge mideba da dewa deba de yimba ina ani dewa dogu yo dunge pang go yo mado te ma banga dunge mutu ni leong go cha da dunge pang go pa ya tabse de la ni bo topshile tawa yo mare so
Dopo 가르사그래? 도po 가르사그래 아니 민드라 카숨 숨소 카 민드라 숨 가르사
다 님부터 없이 님부터 없이 거네니 디버 자기 여의 메시지로 님부터 없이 때문에 디버 다다 마다서 아니 대양 니버들 아니 디버디 니버도 다 고요 봐 마타나 아니 디버디 마타 봐 이나 아니 제거 동에 요고요 봐 어디 아니 숨바들라다 안달 대화 동에 메디어바다 대화 되어바티 어디서네
Thus, for the elimination of negative karmas, non-virtuous karmas, the antidote powers must be applied. Where they are applied, the misdeeds are purified. Wherever they are left unapplied, the misdeeds remain. This is the first point. The second point is that naturally we must eliminate those negative karmas, the non-virtuous karmas. That's the second point, followed by the third. That is, pain and suffering follows from non-virtue. If we wish to avoid pain and suffering, then we wish to eliminate the cause of pain and suffering. Every living being has in common the desire to avoid, rather the desire for contentment, and wishes to avoid pain. This doesn't require any thought. It is perfectly obvious to every one of us. So long as one is living and breathing, one wishes to avoid pain and find pleasure. Thus, pains must be eliminated and pleasures must be achieved. This is one's objective, and how one does it is through application of the antidote powers to the non-virtues that are caused for pain and suffering.
어이다 이제 이것도 없이 대전부 차송하서 이것도 없이 대전부 차려. 이제 다 이것도 없이 시도 장가시래. 어디 장가시도 망고 말하지. 근데 된대지 예부 좋나? 아니 네가 요것도 샤투를 해서.
Then it becomes exceedingly clear the importance of the antidote powers, their critical nature, and they are only 4. As 4 is not so many, it is easy enough to understand just what these 4 are, and so one would understand what these 4 are. As there are 4, one just uses their 4 fingers and counts and attaches each antidote power to one of the 4 fingers that they've raised. So then of the 4 raised fingers, the first to identify as of greatest importance of all is the application of the antidote powers. The antidote power, that is the application of antidote powers. This is the first and foremost. But unfortunately, I've scrambled them up myself.
Yeah, that is the number that the number to Marta, number swings in the tops. What did that Nimutopshin and Neport Tanguay in case you the resource?
So in proper order, the order that I scrambled up, in proper order of first significance is this, the antidote power of remorse, this of great importance.
Oh, yeah, that number swings in the top, you know, and top Hamasumdi. Number switch in the top the mena, number Jema in the young to Marachana, Tango to catch more.
With the antidote power of remorse, the other three antidote powers follow naturally. If it is absent, the other three antidote powers do not follow naturally.
Oh, to Zeta, Tango number switch in the top citizen, but I this some Tango Resna. Tangaranzo, Chichizo, Danga, Momata Tangola Karanzo, Le Giawata, Migiwati, Yabu, Murmatra Chiche. And they gonna lay Migiwati, approaching Murmatra, and lay Migiwati Dunga, but the Murmatra Indu, Mazu, Top Tango, the young ass, there's couple yours. That's the same, the butter, the body of Moshana, and then I'm swinging the top the young, they will chat your resumes.
Now, how should we think about this antidote power of remorse? We can think in terms of our own past, and that, first of all, we were incapable of distinguishing virtuous karmas from non-virtuous karmas, and when this was impossible, there was no recognition of the value of the antidote power of remorse. But with the new familiarity with non-virtuous karmas, then it has become now natural and easy to recognize the importance of the antidote power of remorse.
Oh, yeah. And they do Rangi. Semna, Temba Yuba, Tembe, the Bodu, most 10. And it danger from the Shabbat, Bang not that people in this session, not sharp, best also dream us on something, and would the temper got as soon as.
So then, in one's mind, using one's power of recollection, with that recollection, draw back and drag up the non-virtues for which one is responsible, see them clearly, recognize that they are shameful and problematic.
Well, that intends that it's in the Rangi Martembagi, Marsa, Sembe Tiba. And it's a delay and Sas, Shimbagi Tiba, Martemba. And the Mahomba Saba, Cuba to Martemba to the young, and in bed, need the Chayuna, and in bed, the Timas on some person that you ever get. And catching what the you they were target resource.
Just revise shame. The interpreter wishes to revise shame for inconsideration. Replace shame with inconsiderate and inconsideration. Then one can, through the power of recollection, in their mind, recall actions for which they are responsible. But then there are those that one isn't able to necessarily recall in particular, both those that have occurred in the past, those that are presently occurring, and those naturally that occur in the future. These aren't known and can't be, through the power of recollection, recalled. But the recognition that one will be responsible, has been responsible for these two inconsiderate actions, this is involved too in the development of remorse.
Oh, you might make it so another. I mean, the Dipache, La Dusma, one of the two, the Dipache, some miserable bit, Doma, can get to judge a man, La Bola, Chanjato, King, bench, you did this cherry. The lazy cherry, and quote to judge you to what the Dipache on some bit. In the Magina, and the one Majibi, Swajo, the king onto the best Tapa de your Marismus.
네, 여기 있어.
아주 뒤균이 초반에 나가는 그 제마지 사무 땅땅 줘와 나가는 밀레 뒤녀바도 파이게 밀레 식중자들라 왜 밀레 콩도데 동마모데 지천자라 소바킨 포지션 너바게 유나 어게 디바체 되면은 디바체메 삼백이 소화줘레스 되게 아주 개화체데 디바체 참남다바 되게 연말해서
As we think about non-virtuous karmas, it doesn't work to only envision non-virtuous karmas in the crudest sense that we usually do of here's a person who is quick to grow furious and they become blustering mad and they become violent and they're ticked off and they leave and they return with a weapon and then they harm others. This is not this idea of harm and that which is non-virtuous is not the one that should inform our understanding of virtue and non-virtue. It doesn't draw the line between virtue and non-virtue.
세상 가지고 다랑진지 단진기 온기 아니 마스 진나양 레미교 직사기요 잘라 야가지 통 랑기 나와도 잘라도 미도 통수나 아지 섬 파기 잘라도 야가라 섬 되차기 온기 파기 들하는 되바께서나 내 직사자 레미교사 랑기 마가와 미지기 아니 랑 투바도 그 내가 지도 랑기 먼저 좀 아직 고쳐서 삼네 셈나도 지키도 내 미고지 사사 제가 뒤에 좀 내 미고 배 두자 사사해서
Any action informed by grasping at the self is a non-virtuous action. It's simply when one encounters something appealing, a person who's appealing, some item that's appealing, it's appealing and then one wants it. With that, one has accumulated a non-virtuous karma, just in that. Or one encounters a person one dislikes and meeting them reflects again. They're responsible for that. I dislike that in them. There again, one is responsible for a non-virtuous karma.
다단 뒤마디게 토네 레사 계제 셰단 뒤마디 토네 레가사 레사그레 수굿전단 뒤마디 토네 레사그레 제단 레사 펠렐하고 해서
A mere scowl, a finger wagged in one's direction, one critical word is always enough to cause for a non-virtuous karma.
제단 다지게 레라 장가요 말했어요. 레라 장가요 이만찌기 싸베 레라 장가 잡고 요래서
These karmas are innumerable. They're innumerable even in the span of one day.
근데 인도서마다 디바디게 마샤나 아니 디바 장가 망탄 하장 뭐체는 샤마투야. 아니 디바게 베 제부 동엔 줘야 매바 용대 요로. 지단 다 디인디 맞아. 디바디 샤바이나 아니 디베 제부 동엔 용게 말와. 제단 디바디 바샤나 캡산 친구도 와서.
The non-virtuous karmas are innumerable and they continue to increase and they threaten to continue to increase without ever being addressed by antidote powers such that eventually they become insurmountable. And so then the urgency of applying antidote powers to non-virtues so that their results never come about.
뭐야, 하긴 또 당부디 누구 당부디 남바 순진배 또 세대다 알겠으면 녀바세 장가디 녀바인다 당고 장가만 있는 만에 장가 남바 순진배 또 세제 다 녀바디 남바 순진배 또디 예배 토네 아니 녀무꾼도 집에 또 녀무꾼도 집에 또 세대 녀바디 데려서
Then clearly identify the first antidote power, the antidote power of remorse. It's the first antidote power, and you've raised one finger, and that's the first. And then followed by the second, the application of the antidote powers, where there is the antidote power of remorse, then it follows naturally the antidote power of the application of antidote powers.
난 니보도 집에 또 생기디 다또 당고디 그랑기 나기 비고 싸워서 지금 송삼에 셈나 그랑기 간 내가 예수님께 줘봐 가리 마디고 있는 되게 마디고 되게 줘봐 뒤에 토네 아니 시행을 돈이 공부 창조생 공부 인지 공부 아니 나도 송된 거 배나 얘기했던 봐 아니 산지 구신 봐 최대신 봐 이제 단미 시행了 아니 미세나 남자 요가 줘봐 아니 미 소리 지고 요가 줘봐 내발에 내 줘봐 아니 밀라 배랑이 셈상고도는 시행을 팬배 취해 봐 어떻게 간갈로 이 목군도 집에 또 나는 요래 손하지
Aware and with awareness and recognition of one's responsibility for non-virtuous karmas, and with the acknowledgement that those non-virtuous karmas aren't right. It isn't right to be so engaged. And yet, in my actions of body, speech, and mind, I have been, and it hasn't been right to have been. So now with this remorse, one then addresses this responsibility by meditation in emptiness, meditation in bodhicitta, in great compassion, in the mantrayana, in recitation of the 100-syllable mantra, through constructing stupas and buttas, by protecting others from fear and threats to their life, and through generous assistance to others in need.
어떤 이제 더 망고요다 참가 뭐 이리 답변이나 참가 잡아 되기도 맞아보다 망고요레스 다 전다 파도 리스트나 가르쳐서는 개와 여러 개와 레 개와서는 개와디 맞게버 개버 제바 직세 개 차와도 공도 배워 제비 일단 저와 가르쳐요나야 아니 또 이거 이거도 집에 또 나온 찍고도 해서
And there are, besides those I've mentioned, many other forms that the application of antidote powers takes. Here are just a few. But to draw all of them together, they are, in all virtuous karmas, those virtues that are for the development of virtue, and those that are for the intensification of virtues that have already developed. Whatever form virtues and virtuous karmas take, they fall into this second antidote power, the application of the antidote powers.
뭐요? 다디나지 빅발라 하지 않으면 이거 똑잖아요. 빅발 깨사와 빅발 뽕와죠. 순지마 뽕와 도바지 제바디 아니 이무군도 집에 떠버려. 다 빅발 마깨바디 깨마사오디 아주 권의 빅발수 아니 권의 레마사바 빅발 권의 마사바디 아니 이무군도 집에 떠나 열에서 놓지.
And so then applying the same concept to the non-virtues for the abandonment, the elimination of non-virtuous karmas for which one is responsible, the application of antidote powers, and for the prevention of non-virtuous karmas from ever arising at all, so too the application of the antidote powers. Here again, this second antidote power, the application of the antidote power, addresses non-virtues that haven't arisen as well as those that have.
뭐요? 근데 이들은 다 나중에 이무군 또 이봐 이무군도 집에 또 생이 하장 망보 장가이네 하장 망보를 하장 야침보를 해서
This second antidote power, the antidote power of the application of antidote powers, includes many instances of this application of an antidote power. There are many forms that it takes.
나도 무슨 말이야 장진 무슨 말이 민라 뭐야 이제다 톱시나 가라 톱시 님보 담보 디만 남아 수집에도 님보 군도 집에도 다 숨바디 네발에 라르 도베 톱스 숨바디 네발에 라르 도베 톱스
Followed now by raising the third finger and giving a name to it, which is the name of the third antidote power. The third antidote power following the first, which is the antidote power of remorse, and the second, that is the antidote power of the application of antidote powers. Here then the third, on the third finger, the antidote power of future restraint.
that is somewhat done. Can is change solo pabjam, make you the less argument, some better. Thompson gave it the
And it is this inward commitment to even under threat to my life, I will never at all ever again engage in a non-virtuous activity.
말한도 미지디나 나도 개치주디 소들어다 소야가 지도라 숨겹진 강가 지그로 소 자치주 지그로 텔레장 아니 레미기와 사바디 텔레제 레미기와 마사바디 텔레장 개치와 자되어레스 가르치는스나 소디 소나 수술라 대화 토백이 라와지요라 제가 디요 대화 토백이 된다 라와이나 소 자치고 지바로 와서 대인나 아니 소주 친지 미지스면 dom심디 요바이나 여와체 미기와 스페치기메 삼부 dom심 축심부터 요바이나 아니 소주기 dom바토 비토로 때네랑 둥에디 강가 바까 아니 대화 토백 요바인지 아니 꼭 개침부 잘 해서
직체인스래.
나
직체인스래. 예, 연기는 이 계시기 성격 대 직체인스래. 사대 체격의 가리나. Right. 강 아니 전전의 라샤가.
네.
직체스. As it is in a life, threats to our life are taken as the greatest threat of all, and we do any number of things in an effort to protect ourselves. But here, the point is just that more valuable than our lives is our commitment to never engage in non-virtuous karmas. It surpasses the value of our life. And so it is then that where there is this inward commitment to restrain from non-virtue, one is ensuring that the cause of pain is eliminated for one.
난또 숨바제다 또 시버디 땡기 톱스 나 디바 샤사기 유기체는 시기요래 내가 이제 땡기 톱스디 톱 시버디를 해서
And the fourth antidote power, that is the antidote power of the support. This is the basis for confession and purification of non-virtuous karmas.
야, 근데 이제마다 땡기 톱디 간레스나 땡기 톱들라 겸도가 생기 니요래서
And the antidote power of the support is two: refuge and the mind of awakening.
야, 다티 간레스나 라니 코어던 오늘 내송이 동에 아보다 수수기 코에게 내단 코에게 동에들이 야고삼 아니 내송 코에게 나네지 않다 동에 힘도 잡아 동에 채와 내송을 제가 내송 동에들이들하게 야고진 삼로다 모셔봐지 모르트 아니 신에들 내송 동에들 직신 잡아 내송 동에 진짜 잡고들 단 용도고 말을 너는 지금 말해서 직신 잡을 로ike네 아니 신에다 내송 동에 거의 동에를 수입 투그래 이를 잡투에 뭐 술래요래서 아니 신에 운조스게 겸예지 여봐 아니 겸예지 여봐지 아니 거기 좀 두고 여봐 어딘지 이체를 거네 아니 신에 이렇게 잡으시고 그래서
One themselves recognizes in samsara, recognizes all the more evidently in the grossest form that pain takes in the hell realms, then too, the situation that characterizes samsara generally, that of pain. The pain seen in the hell realms is evident, obvious, and characterizes samsara generally. But one looks to the hell realms and recognizes the pain to be found there and feels naturally in response a terror of that pain, a fear of that pain, with the recognition that such pain is intolerable. I wouldn't be able to tolerate it. I can't tolerate such pain. So what might I do? How may I find protection from such a plight as suffering the pain of the hell realms? And then gradually, dawns the recognition that there is a refuge, that there is a protection from such pain. Such a refuge exists, and that refuge is capable of protecting one from the pain of the hell realms. And then with this recognition of the existence of a refuge capable of this, one goes for refuge just there to that refuge. There are two causes necessary for refuge to be authentic. That is, first, a fear of samsara and of the hell realms. This is required. So too is the recognition that the refuge is capable of protecting one from this fear, and the faith and confidence in the refuge, in its capability, in its ability to protect from this fear. This is the second necessary cause for refuge. These two, fear and faith, are required for refuge. Where they are present, refuge is authentic. Where they are not, refuge is not. Where these two, fear and faith, are present, mere refuge is present. This is mere refuge, mere satisfaction of these two criteria. It is not the Mahayana refuge. The Mahayana refuge is the refuge intended in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. In the context of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, refuge is Mahayana refuge. Mahayana refuge is characterized by, in addition to these first two causes, that first fear, personal fear of a plight in samsara, filled with pain, is enlarged to embrace the plight of all sentient beings who, by the force of their non-virtues, are mired in pain. One would protect them from the result of their non-virtues, that is their pain, and do so by the development of the mind of awakening, so that they may be parted from their pain and established in lasting contentment. When these two first causes and this third are present, then the refuge is the Mahayana refuge.
Oh yeah, that's it. And that you would top sheet, Changadi, Putara is, what top sheet to Bushigan, and would the number swings in the top, nearby the Nibukundu to the top, somebody never loved of the top, Shibadi, and Yambu Senji, Yankee tops, Yambu the Senji, or that Tanga City.
Now I have offered to you, for antidote powers, a finger at a time, beginning with the antidote power of remorse, followed by the antidote power of the application of the antidote powers, followed by the antidote power of future restraint, followed by the fourth antidote power of refuge and the mind of awakening. These are the four.
This city, Yams Long, Chebayina, and Shamatu, they were your that be your marriage.
Should one implement these four, does there remain any non-virtuous karma that wouldn't be purified? There is no such karma that is resistant to the antidote powers.
I think Manzo Bena Yamne, Chanju Sem Yamne China, think what Nimbo Topshiti. That do not give a rich to somebody Nimbo Topshiti to a 예시 가수지 탑 용다 템버 있나 이마지가 니 제도나 히라야 보여레스 니모체베 디바디 세모샤 세모체베 디바디 니모샤바이나 아니 라나탄 디바기 제부 당에 용야 그랑가 요 말해서
Each day in one's practice, if one is practicing, if one is meditating in the mind of awakening, and then for every virtue one engages in, one recalls to the application of antidote powers. But for one who isn't continuously so absorbed, then in a day, 2 times at least, one should recall the antidote powers applied to the non-virtuous karmas that one is responsible for in the morning. And then again in the evening, the application of the antidote powers to those non-virtues for which one is responsible in the afternoon. In the diversity of views in philosophical schools, one finds scriptural citation supporting the argument that there are non-virtuous karmas that are even resistant to the application of the 4 antidote powers. There's scriptural support for this in the very word of the Buddha. There are, too, in philosophical schools, scriptural citation of the Buddha himself to the effect that no non-virtuous karma whatsoever is resistant to the application of the antidote powers. That both are the authoritative word of the Buddha, and that both exist in the scriptures of the Buddha, is a matter for each one to search out and investigate and consider themselves.
뭐 땡기 또 뭐는 삼내 뒤로 제일 삼내 뒤로 다 땡기 또 뭐는 하고 세다 겨위다 주 세다 아니 소 잡고 심게 되게라는 게 땡티 종들라 아니 내게 랑글레사 심바 사버 주바 안다 뭐사 심바 사버 주바 되다 강가 땅에 내 가르지 사이네베 땡기 손동에 너로 가리나다 돌려샤 땡이 샤기 삼베 삼바게 먼저 제발게 교슴 잡고 삼바 야고 교슴게 아니 교수님 계사도 아니 교수님 계산에 아니 교수님 계산당에 디고디도 연합 답이지도 아니 임부터 어디 아니 동반이 공기는 안 당보래 자주생권에 안 당보래 아니 내야 수족의 숭아잖아 되게 아니 시에는 인지 고나자 아니 근데 가르쳐 봐는 되게 삼로 땅 되게 배때기 또 이바 이삼 아니 다 되게 친중 다내 매기가 누가 예수님 거네 배랑이 류 배디 매기가 지금에 삼 담자조샤 되게 제도가 있나 아니 뭐도 없이 상황 차를 해서
With this order in hand, the order of these antidote powers, now in hand, it may be brought into one's practice. And whether one leads the count with the antidote power of the support, or one leaves the antidote power of the support for the 4th of the 4th, is of no serious, is not a serious matter. For should one begin with the antidote power of the support, then one visualizes the merit field before one and develops the mind of awakening and goes for refuge to the merit field before one. And with the merit field before one as witness, one takes accountability and responsibility for non-virtuous karmas accumulated in one's past, and those that are accumulating presently, and those that will accumulate in the future. All whatsoever, every last one, recognized as regrettable, one confesses to in order to purify them before the witnessing of the merit field. And in this, naturally, arises the remorse over the regrettable non-virtuous karmas for which one is responsible, and then one moves to address them by, best of all, meditating in emptiness, and by, best of all, meditating in bodhicitta, and by meditation in great compassion, and in mantra recitation, and of generous assistance to others in need. And in the event of all of these, with the acknowledgement and recognition that this activity is the very application of the antidote powers to eliminate non-virtuous karmas. And then one is moved to naturally commit oneself to never again engaging in any non-virtuous karma whatsoever in one's future. Now, after one moment of meditating on the antidote powers, we will open for Q&A. Now, in meditation, if one is able to sit in a full lotus position, then this becomes cause for progress in one's meditation. Yet, if one ought to be in the position that is most comfortable. If it's most comfortable to stretch out one's legs and meditate, then sit this way. If it's most comfortable to be reclined and meditate, then one should meditate in this way, because what one is doing is giving an activity to the mind that the mind might be engaged, and the body would just be comfortable so that the mind can be engaged. And then, so too, if you are able to adopt the full lotus posture, the full lotus posture is the precursor posture for the achievement of the very body of the Vairochana. And so to adopt the full lotus position is conducive for this, and one is physically in full lotus, and one's wind energy is in full lotus too. So then in position then, recalling the antidote powers one by one, beginning first with the antidote power of the support. For the antidote power of support can draw up the other three antidote powers. Recalling these, then in a moment of meditation. So here we go, and now meditate.
도대체 아니 이것도 없이 그냥 수도 지라 지도요. 이도 이 말을 이숨 가서 지도는 편도 지고 표현 지고시라고 했으니 대샤는 또 저한테는 게
Thank you. And the meditation on the antidote powers is a meditation that is easy enough, and it should be the case that 2 or 3 times a day, a meditation such as this that is easy enough, one does. And now we can open the Q&A. So, excuse me for one moment. Prepare your questions.
So in our practice, normally we always practice meditate on the emptiness. Meditation on the emptiness means we don't think about anything. But sometimes the Lama also give us teaching to meditate meditate on the power of emptiness. So in our routine life, so which one is most important? So how much we meditate on emptiness, how much we meditate on the teaching like the power of emptiness.
아니 동네 공예도 게 전부 찍기 열어 아니 닌텐 찍기 열어 라마 전부 저게 아니 동네 공셔 왔어 아니 송 열어 얘네야데야 아니 라마기 아니 님보 없이 디앙 공그레스는 따기도 와 동네 공도 잠발라 아니 짱마 젬베 토네 아니 공 겹으러 왔어 동네 세리데 짱마 젬베 아니 공 겹으러 와 다데 이나야 가서 아니 니르코기 말이 니마 레레기 냐네 아니 제바델라 가기 갸체와레 동니 고미야 갸체와레 야미 님보 없이 아니 곰갸디 갸체와레
뭐였어? 저랑 지와들은 게 거야 소리니 고송제 아 거야 되나 가르스나 동번이 공도 좀 찌양이라 마셔봐서 대치교 말해서 동번이 공도 좀 또 동번이 공고에 균진티 코에게 자와 제 지금 공고요래서 균진 공번이 공고에 균진 코에게 자와 제 두고를 제발라 동번이 공부로 면은 제 두고 말해 저는 뒤치도 동번이 냐버도 공고를 해서 동번이 공도 일을 마치고 말 동번이 공도 좀 동번이 생을 태는 공부를 와서 어디 직접 소식 우리 니버들라 다 동번이 공부디 니 무덤식이냐 매나 좀 팁을 해서
Now I hear there are two parts to the question, and the first part is meditation in emptiness is meditation with no object of thought, thinking of nothing. That's not meditation in emptiness. The objective of meditation in emptiness is to finally cut the root cause of samsaric existence. One roots out the root cause of samsaric existence with this mind, the mind meditating in emptiness. It is not non-thought. It is recalling emptiness that one meditates upon emptiness. And then, second point, the meditation in emptiness is included in the antidote powers. And within the four antidote powers, that second antidote power, the application of the antidote powers include meditation in emptiness. Meditation in emptiness is, just as you suggest, of foremost importance. It is the main objective of meditation, to meditate in emptiness. And for success to be able to meditate in emptiness, one depends upon the antidote powers themselves. Others?
Yes, thank you so much for the framework for addressing the obstacles on the path. So for the first antidote hour, I heard the word remorse, and then also the word support. And I just wondered if I heard that correctly, and maybe talk a little bit about support.
아니 기시기 좀시 람라 아니 라데 캅기 칼로 낭 아니 나와데라 시시체 아니 드럼시디 아니 람가 라마르 조데 잠발라 아니 바르치 덴조 아니 셀당 셀수 라서버 덴데 아니 성낭말라 치시체 직체 따드네야 마 가르고선서나 아니 니모도 시기 나는 강보데 아니 순심이도 나가 순심이도 즉 거성 되네요 땐 라고 즉 거성 땡기도 되면 라고 거성 때 아니 땡기 된다 즉
땡기도 땡스 이거 샤야 때 이거를 거샤고 무슨 샥삭 유로와 유스도 유들은 땡스 명단 이거 샤삭 거샤고 무슨 유디 쉐바이다 이거 샤삭 유들은 땡스 명단 지치 여레스 땡라고 디세 나디니 너무 지부디 남바 수집에 또 생기디 랑이 디버사바 이거 뭐시는 되게 수술 내가 너로 뭐를 맞지 이 계속 자대 어려서 뭐지 수술 내가 누르셔 있는 아우 땅에 넣어서 디모송 쌈 탱고로 와 어디 대한테 계속 해야 해서 뭐지
The antidote power that is the support, the antidote power of the support, means the object, means the basis where one confesses to that for which one is responsible and acknowledges responsibility for that which is regrettable, as this support provides the basis, the place for acknowledging responsibility. It is called the antidote power of the support. It supports the acknowledgement and recognition of responsibility. The antidote power of remorse is the recollection and recognition of mistakes in one's actions, and for any action that is regrettable, for which one might be responsible, the acknowledgement that it was improper and is regrettable. This is the antidote power of remorse. 괜찮은 기시기 아니 당보대 아니 남바 순짐이 또 송송 되네 이제라 아니 당보대 아니 땡기도 되네 아니 장가 갭단
말했다. 이 안에 니들 니들에게서 말했다. 얘기 장가 똥부터 없이 개치 당분에 쉬어야 돼. 니부터 없이 개체를 그렇잖아. 나뭐 순집에 또 당보 쉬어 봐. 다 냠내 지도 잡아. 니부터 없이 냠내 지도 잡았다. 가르치에서나 당보 땡이 또 삼보 땅. 아니 막 와서 삼보 땅 그래서 냠내 지도. 하던게 이 거는 쉬어야 돼. 가르치에서나 곧 니부터 없이 나는 개체쇼 왜 예벌도 참고해 가래서 어디 시에 와서 어디 나기서라고 하는.
Now, in my order of presenting the antidote powers, the first order, their first order, was arranged by relative importance. And in that order of first importance is the antidote power of remorse. So the first time around, I presented the antidote powers in the order of their importance, and so led off with the antidote power of remorse. And the second time around, presenting their order, I presented it from the standpoint of practice. And in an instance of practice, the order would be to begin with the antidote power of the support, and then which is followed by the others.
So
Did that clarify?
Yeah, look about it. That's what I
Just briefly to clarify the practice order then, it's support, remorse, application of antidote powers, and then a commitment to future restraint is what we end with. Is that the order?
그래서 아니 잠깐 예봤디 아니 냠는 제도 장애디 말했디 이제 좀 해봐. 내 말에다 아니 담보디 냠는 제도 담발라 담보디 땡기도 되네 남바 순짐에도 되네 아니 근데 좁에도 되네 아니 라 네바 라르도 또 내려와
다도 똥샤당 지샤도 속에 일단은 이 냠내치도 어디를 못 가나 요소.
That's it, exactly. In the confession and mending ritual, this is the order in which they come.
Yeah. 이제 봐도.
Are there others? If there are no others, then we
say that order again.
양기하듯이 아니 장가디 양기했습니다. 아니 냠내지도.
다른 장가디 냠내기 전에 뭐 시에가 개출로 전에 뭐 시에가 해서.
Do you want to hear the order from practice or the order of relative importance?
Practice.
냠내.
아니 문제는 시에는 다부 땡이 또 세다.
Yes.
당부 땡 세다. 땡 점도 점게 되게 세야부터. 아니 세답자는 이 정도마다 한게 이제 내 너로 시험봐. 아니 마템봐. 아니 마템배 온게 제봐. 근데 내 가르치면 내가 이수가 답을 치고 두고 삼고 굴ung 좋아하시고 먹거든. 이거지. 나도 수지면 또지. 아니 dit다 야고 답이 치돌라. 아니 동반이다 장주쌤 공부디. 동반이 공부이나라 장주쌤 공부이나라. 아니 지금 밀려야 편도치는 내가 그 집안 수준 가르치고 있는 되게 아니 다마체도 중에 내 제보도 뺐다. 왜 줘봐 제 차이 당연히 이거 되게 샤차이 때 지주는 보면 이거 사람이 배서 솔로 통해 이거 사람이 사람이 당연히 남자도 제도 어디든지 제도는 아닌 이것도 사람이 와서.
Then in the order of practice, one begins with the antidote power of the support, visualizing the causal refuge. And before the causal refuge as witness, one acknowledges responsibility for all that is regrettable and recalls every instance of non-virtuous action and recognizes all responsibility and acknowledges responsibility for these. And then this occurs in the antidote power of the support. And the need to purify those negative karmas is acknowledged then too, and to ensure that those karmas are thoroughly purified, then one engages in the second antidote power, that is the antidote power of the application of antidote powers, namely meditation in emptiness, meditation in bodhicitta, whichever and whatever, and also including any generous assistance to others, any practice of ethical discipline. These two are application of the antidote. The antidote power of the application of the antidotes. And then in this process, one recognizes that one has one acknowledges responsibility and in the first application, there's no rush. Take your time. And one begins with the antidote power of the support, visualizing the causal merit field and the causal refuge. One acknowledges personal responsibility. Doing this before the merit field, one then moves into the antidote power of remorse, feeling the responsibility for it. And then with this, there is the recognition that those negative karmas must be eliminated and purified. To ensure that they are eliminated and purified, the third antidote power, that is the application of the antidote powers, meditation in bodhicitta, meditation in emptiness, and meditations in generosity, practices of generosity, and ethical discipline. And then this is followed by the commitment to never again engage in non-virtuous karmas. And with these four following naturally one from the other, the four antidote powers are all complete. This practice of the application of antidote powers is a practice to eliminate non-virtuous karmas that, if they are left unpurified, will cause pain and suffering. We would eliminate then the causes of pain and suffering, namely the non-virtuous karmas for which we are responsible. And so we apply the antidote powers to purify ourselves of the causes for our own pain and suffering. And then in any action, at any time, any virtuous action, to recall the antidote powers is also appropriate. And we recite the homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and in the final verse of that homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, we recite, through these merits, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. And there samsara's sufferings are characterized as these of being born and aging, growing ill, and finally dying. When one is born a human being, these four forms of pain and suffering come inevitably. To correct ourselves out of this situation of pain and samsara, then we engage in the application of antidote powers. And so it is that we would be delivered from samsara's ocean, as it is perturbed by, as we are perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. So with this in mind, we can close with these
예.
closing prayers. No?
민법 제대로 수술 이거 수술 비교마다 SMG 탐지 랑도 랑 자와 대화 대화 동의 미대바 강말로 이게가 나지 동에서 쇼스는 자고 했어.
But not with self-interest alone would we recite these prayers, that we be liberated from samsara's ocean of suffering, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death, but that all sentient life, every one of whom is just like me, that they all be liberated from samsara's ocean of pain, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. So I will recite these closing prayers and recite them together with me, please.
Lume mari ki don rowa nare yawe ongo da gyuje tema zube sera kundu ya jambe yange sewe jeso Kembe lemba kusan lamje jo yene jobe ke na nye jeso Rangi shijin dobe langye ne shuja sewe trawe tapki ki Rowe yige muba seje ne jawe jamba yubin senju chi Tembo rinjen shoge magya bang Jabya nyamba yurwe chole ne Niji chimbo yira jeba yi pede deche sewara jeba sho Seje gyave mejun chile le ru chanju ranje rembe yang Tadu namje yila pede je Gyave zeba rindu jung je Lāsa dröbe dünjin röche jin, Kege seje medan meme gun, Sera kundu gyave ngapa yi, Nanda landa java magyo je, Kanze tebo jola juju je, Sujin rola zulba teye ze, Tode nange tadu roche je, Trashi yagu jokun gyagyo ji.
From my due collection, vast is faith that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds with the mind blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the path, the complete teaching, and may I please all the Buddhas by practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the point in the path as I have discerned it. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this pleasure of happiness to it all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings have limited adversity and make things conducive to practicing the excellent paths, never departed in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the Mighty One, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dagi chiji sabe gewa di tendan roa kula tendang Chebar jezu losa jaba yi tembe nimbo rido seje Kanre rawe kowe shenga de pendan dewa malu chongwe Tere sewa tende yadori shabe side wade tenge chik Jambe babu jedar chemba nang okundu tangpo leyang de shen 대다 구제 제스 날로 치 여와 대다 탐지라도 유소 제베 여와 탐지 제모와 알라 조드 마바데 나제 제외 타워 디구야 상고 제제라도 모르게 자주 선조를 보제 마게 바나게 게르지 예와냐가 내바야 오늘 고드 배가라
I dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lozan Drapa to shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful goodness begins and goes. Please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantha realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these fruits of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious thus gone ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deed. May the supreme jewel of bodhisattva that has not arisen or rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more.
그렇지. 인다트가 지금 아버님부터 지금 강도 좀 지나고 나서 네 패사 포부들 지금 요마를 가는 문제로도 아마 좀 봐봐야 돼. 이거 제가 된 문제를 안 되네. 이제만 딸이 주들어네. 이게도 영어제 자 노베스다 기도는 쇼게가 붙이지 제름도 근데 제가 요마를 해다 이것도 시기냐는 진짜 지금 맞추고 나서
Thank you very much, and during the week to come, as in the best way possible, implement just these 4 antidote powers in your practice. And then this Thursday there isn't the Dharma lecture, because on this day we celebrate Jetsong Kappa. It's Jetsong Kappa Day, Gandeng Amchu, and there's a program at Tank, and so we won't hold a program here. And then on the 10th of December, on the 10th of September, we celebrate also the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Sorry, on Jetsong Kappa Day this Thursday, there's a program here at 7 to 8. On the 10th of December, we celebrate His Holiness the Dalai Lama is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize with a program at TANK, the Tibetan Association of Northern California. But during this time, when there are no Dharma lectures, continue to practice the 4 antidote powers.
예, 두째 지워 제가 좀 필요하구나.
Thank you very much, and if you have time, then you can join us for a meal outside, and might all be auspicious for you.